Welcome to Unit 4, which is the last unit in the CLPNM's 2023 Annual Professional Learning Module. This unit will cover the CLPNM's new Continuing Competency Program, often referred to as the CCP. Although the program changes have been announced and are already in effect, this unit of the module will summarize them to help CLPNM registrants understand what's new. As noted in Unit 2, the RHPA will continue the CLPNM's obligation to establish a continuing competence program to promote and review the competence of Manitoba's practical nurses. The applicable sections of the RHPA are noted on this slide. You'll see that the CLPNM's obligations include operating a program to help maintain and enhance the competence of Manitoba's practical nurses, which might include requiring members to participate in programs intended to ensure competence, reviewing competence, and conducting audits. The CLPNM's transition to the RHPA presented the opportunity for the CLPNM to review its CCP because the components of the program will be described in the new regulations. Many registrants will already know that the CLPNM is introducing the changes to its CCP this year in 2023. These changes were announced in January and February. The changes being introduced were informed by stakeholder consultation, including the feedback from nearly 300 LPNs. Just as a CLPNM has an obligation under legislation to maintain a continuing competence program, LPNs have an obligation to participate in the program. These requirements are currently in the LPN Act and regulation, and in future will be made explicit in the new regulations under the RHPA. Your professional responsibilities related to continuing competence are also outlined in your standards of practice and conduct. A few of the relevant standards are noted here on this slide. Ultimately, the reason to participate in the CCP each year is not just to tick a box on a registration renewal application. The reason is to help you continue to provide high quality and safe care to your clients. We know that this is a goal that both the CLPNM and Manitoba's LPNs have in common. Many components of the CCP will stay the same under the new program. As in the past, the CCP will continue to provide a framework that supports Manitoba's LPNs to continuously build upon their knowledge, judgment, and skill. It will support the profession's commitment to safe, competent care and lifelong learning. It will provide each LPN the flexibility to identify and pursue learning goals that are relevant to their own needs, their client population, and the area of current or future practice, and it will involve an annual self-assessment process, self-directed learning plans, minimum practice hour requirements, and an annual audit of CCP activities. Although many of the program's elements will stay the same, there will be some additional program elements aimed at promoting an understanding of the legislation, standards, and other requirements of the LPN profession, encouraging practice reflection as the basis for continuing competence, and monitoring and confirming the baseline competence of Manitoba's LPNs, particularly those who practice in higher risk circumstances. The new CLPNM program will include 3 types of learning activities. 2 of those learning activities, specifically the Quality Improvement Learning Plans and Annual Professional Learning Module, will be completed by all LPNs each year. Most LPNs are familiar with learning plans, as it has long been an expectation under the CCP that LPNs will complete learning plans each year. Under the new program, LPNs will be required to complete one learning plan per year, unlike two in the past, focused on developing their nursing competence. Instead of a second individualized learning plan each year, all LPNs will complete an annual professional learning module. The third learning activity will only be required if LPNs who are specifically selected for a new category of the CCP audit called the Quality Assurance Audit. LPNs selected for the Quality Assurance Audit will be required to obtain feedback on their practice. By default, LPNs will be expected to obtain this feedback from their employer, although LPNs without an employer may request feedback from a colleague who knows their practice. Guidance on how to select someone to provide you with feedback is included in the CCP instruction guide. The LPN will then develop a second learning goal informed by that feedback. The second learning goal is intended to ensure that LPNs, particularly those who practice in higher risk practice circumstances, are maintaining the competence to do so safely. Just as the learning activities included in the Continuing Competence program are changing, so too is the annual CCP audit. Specifically, the audit will now have two categories. It will include the Quality Improvement Audit, which is also referred to as Category 1, and the Quality Assurance Audit, which is also referred to as Category 2. Each audit has a slightly different focus and process. The Quality Improvement category of the CCP audit, which is also referred to as Category 1, will be conducted to confirm that LPNs are building their competence and improving the quality of their care over the course of their careers. This is the CCP audit that CLPNM registrants are most accustomed to. Each year, a minimum of 10% of LPNs will be selected for this category of the audit. Those selected will submit one completed learning plan for review by CCP auditors. Those selected for the audit may also be required to obtain verification of their practice hours. And any person selected who is self-employed must also submit documentation related to their self-employed practice. More information on what must be submitted is described in the CLPNM's CCP Instruction Guide, which can be accessed from the CLPNM website. The Quality Assurance category of the audit, also referred to as Category 2, is new. The focus of the Quality Assurance audit is on obtaining assurance that LPNs are demonstrating the competence necessary to practice safely in their current practice context. Each year, approximately 2% of LPNs will be selected for Category 2 of the audit. Those selected for this audit category will submit the same material required for the QI audit discussed on an earlier slide. They will have additional requirements as well. These additional requirements include obtaining feedback on their practice and completing a second learning plan that is informed by that feedback. This slide provides an overview of the steps involved in participating in the Quality Assurance Audit. A detailed overview of these steps can be found in the CLPNM's CCP Instruction Guide. Note that the Quality Assurance Audit spans 3 separate registration years, as noted on the slide. This does not mean that the LPNs selected for this category of the audit will need to actively work on their learning activities continuously for a full 3-year period. The audit timeframes have been spaced out to provide LPNs adequate time for meaningful feedback, reflection, and learning activities. This time frame also provides LPNs the opportunity to participate in courses or workshops to meet their learning requirements that might be offered only once a year. On an earlier slide, we mentioned that there will be 3 types of learning involved in the new Continuing Competence program. We've talked about quality improvement learning plans as well as quality assurance learning plans. The third learning category is annual professional learning. In fact, you are completing that requirement right now. This learning module is the first in a series of annual professional learning modules that all LPNs will complete each year. The topic will vary from year to year and will be chosen by the CLPNM. The objective of annual professional learning modules is to provide LPNs with regular education on topics related to the legislation and standards that guide and direct their profession. One of the reasons that annual professional learning modules were introduced is because the CLPNM heard from registrants during stakeholder consultations that registrants would be more often likely to be given guidance on what to learn for the CCP. Under the former CCP program, all LPNs completed 2 self-directed learning plans each year. Under the new program, all LPNs will complete 1 self-directed learning plan and 1 annual professional learning module each year. The number of mandatory annual learning activities will stay the same. However, LPNs will be able to choose 1 learning activity and the CLPNM will provide the other. Annual professional learning modules will continue to be online, and LPNs will have the opportunity to complete them at a time that is convenient for them, as long as the module is completed each year before the registration renewal deadline. Note that, beginning next year, the CLPNM will verify completion through a mandatory quiz. This unit of the 2023 Annual Professional Learning Module has provided you with a brief overview of the new Continuing Competence program. We understand that you might have questions about changes to the program. We have prepared a number of resources to help you. In addition to this learning module, you can find frequently asked questions on our website and detailed instructions in our CCP instruction guide. The appendices to the instruction guide will provide you with an overview of the documents you need to submit depending on which audit category you've been selected for, as well as an overview of all the timelines involved in both categories of the audit. An overview of the program requirements can also be found in the CCP Practice Direction. Scan the QR code shown here to access the CCP webpage, where you can find links to all of our CCP resources. If you still have questions after reviewing these resources, we encourage you to reach out to the CLPNM practice consultant. You can find our contact information on the CLPNM website. It will also be listed at the end of this learning module. Now let's consider a few scenarios to help illustrate how an LPN can meet their professional obligations related to continuing competence. Amanda, LPN, has not been selected for the CCP audit this year. After a shift one day, her colleague, Mitchell, LPN, asks Amanda what she learned for CCP this year. Amanda states she did not complete a learning plan. She explains she is not required to do one since she was not selected for the CCP audit. Amanda tells Mitchell that she only needs to do a learning plan if and when she is audited by the CLPNM. Is Amanda correct? Amanda is unfortunately mistaken. The RHPA requires that the CLPNM establish a Continuing Competence Program, CCP, which provides for supervision of the practice of licensed practical nursing and which includes, but is not limited to, reviewing the professional competence of members, conducting practice audits in accordance with the RHPA, and requiring members to participate in programs for continuing competence. The CLPNM's Continuing Competence Program requires all Manitoba LPNs participate in the CCP each year, whether or not they are selected for the audit. Amanda may not be audited this year, but she could be asked in future by the CLPNM to show evidence of her learning plans going back several years. Amanda is missing the opportunity to identify ways she could expand her competence to better meet her clients' needs, or ways that she could ensure her knowledge is up to date with current best practice. Helen, LPN, has not been selected for the CCP audit for many years. She knows she's supposed to do a learning plan each year, but when she took her nursing program many years ago, she got top marks. She subsequently took the nursing foot care program and also got top marks. That too was several years ago, but she doesn't think she has forgotten anything she learned, and her clients are always happy with her care. Is Helen at risk for practice that falls below her professional standards? In this scenario, Helen may be practicing safely, but she may also not be. She may not know unless she reviews current guidelines and evidence. The annual requirement through the CCP to complete at least one learning plan is a reminder to nurses to continue building their competence and to continue reviewing guidance about current best practice throughout their careers. Professional learning does not end after formal education is complete. Even though Helen excelled in her studies and is valued by her clients, she may still be at risk for practice that falls below her professional standards, because best practice in safe nursing care, including infection control procedures, change over time. Also, if she practices as a foot care nurse in a self-employed capacity, she may not have the benefit of other knowledgeable healthcare professionals around her to provide guidance, share advice, and speak up if they see something that is unsafe. LPNs, like Helen, want to provide safe care. The learning plans they complete through the CCP help them to meet this goal. Peter, LPN, has been notified by the CLPNM that he has been selected for the Continuing Competence Program CCP audit. Peter remembers receiving a CLPNM email advising him that he has been selected for the audit, but he also recalls that there are now 2 categories to the CCP audit, and he cannot recall which audit requirements apply to him. Where can Peter find information about the CLPNM CCP audit and the specific requirements for LPNs who are selected for either the Quality Improvement category or the Quality Assurance category? Peter reviews the email notification he received and proceeds to the CLPNM website for more information. On the website, Peter reads about the new CCP and reviews the CCP Frequently Asked Questions section. He finds links to the CCP Practice Direction, the CCP Instruction Guide, and the CCP Self-Assessment Tool. The website also provides Peter with information about the CCP audit. After reviewing the information available on the website, Peter still has a couple of questions. At this point, Peter can either email the CLPNM Practice Department or he can call a CLPNM practice consultant to ask for clarification about his CCP audit requirements. Contact information can be found on the CLPNM website and will appear at the end of this learning module. We are coming to the end of the 2023 Annual Professional Learning module. In this unit, focused on the new Continuing Competence program, we have discussed how the new CCP ties in with the new legislation, the RHPA. We have discussed what will stay the same under the new Continuing Competence program and what will change. In particular, we have discussed how there will now be 3 types of learning activities under the new CCP. All LPNs will complete 1 quality improvement learning plan and 1 annual professional learning module each year. In addition, a small number of LPNs who are selected for the quality assurance audit each year will complete a 2nd learning plan, after requesting feedback on their practice from an employer. As we end this learning module, we know we have shared a lot of information with you. We also know that there are many things we have not yet been able to share with you, such as which reserved acts will be authorized for your profession, how your new professional scope of practice will be phrased in the regulations. This module is intended as an introduction. It will give you the basis to better understand the information we will communicate to you in the coming months. As soon as the CLPNM has more information to share regarding the transition to the RHPA and the reserved acts to be authorized for the profession, we will be sure to communicate that information with our registrants. Please continue to keep your ears open for updates and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions in the meantime. You have now completed the CLPNM's 2023 Annual Professional Learning module. Before you close this video, we encourage you to pause and reflect on the following questions. Do you understand what the RHPA is, why it was introduced, and how it will apply to your profession, to your registration and your practice? Do you understand what it means for a healthcare activity to be listed as a reserved act? Do you know the general limitations on performing reserved acts, even if that act is authorized for your profession? Do you understand the kinds of limitations that might apply to specific reserved acts? Do you have questions about what any of the reserved acts mean? Do you know what your CCP requirements are? Do you know where to find information about the CCP and the audit? We hope you'll find that you are able to answer each of these questions. If your answer to any of these questions is no, or you're not sure, please reach out to the CLPNM Practice Department. You can reach us by email at practice@clpnm.ca. You can also reach us by phone at 204-663-1212 or 1-877-663-1212 toll-free. You can also access our website as well as all of the resources posted there by scanning the QR code that appears on your screen. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this module.